Hello. Our discussion is today on literature, uh, a very interesting subject. But before we get into this subject of literature, I would like to find out the two main definitions or the two main categories of literature. So, what is it? Literature can be referred to as any writing on a particular subject. That can also be called literature. So, if you buy a drug or medicine, and there's a leaflet in that medicine that tells you about the dosage, the side effects, that can be called literature. We can talk about literature on any human subject like biology, chemistry, physics, just about anything. So, those who do research, there's a particular part called literature review. It means they're reviewing any written document on their area of expertise or what they're investigating. So any written document can be referred to as literature. But our focus for this discussion is the subject of study literature, which is based on imagination and creativity and artistry, and whose focus or attention is a tool of language. That is our interest today. The imaginative and creative writings and speeches of a group of people. That is what we are interested in as a subject of study. Now, that one as a subject of study, which deals with creativity and imagination, and the tool is language, has functions. And some of these functions are education, entertainment, and beauty. We're going to look at education first. Education is to transform a person's mind to have a change of idea or change of mind and to do something new. And literature provides the platform from which we can get educated. And so you learn, you read, and you listen to people use language in a literary way, you can get educated. And one of the aspects of getting educated is critical thinking, where you can analyze, examine, scrutinize things, reason, and articulate things for yourself and come to the right conclusions. And also, part of education deals with moral issues. To be a human being means to have to do with a lot of moral issues, and we can get to become morally grounded people if we go to the platform of literature. So, yes, we get educated as one of the functions of literature. Another function could be the function of entertainment. You see, you watch a movie or you read a book or a novel, and you are so excited about what you read, the new knowledge you are getting, you are excited about it. You're getting entertained. Or maybe you see a movie and you are so connected with one of the characters of that movie to the point that you shed tears because the character to whom you are connected is suffering. In that way, you are entertained. So, one of the functions of literature was without a doubt entertainment. And it means more than just laughter. If you shed tears because of something you have read, you are entertained. So it has to do with all the emotions of us humans. Then another function of literature is beauty. You see, when language is used in a literary way, it goes beyond just the idea of transforming or giving out a message. The focus is also on how the message is delivered by this tool called language. So you listen to somebody speak, you read something, and the style of the writer makes you happy. That is beauty. And then in this beauty, we can say that language is preserved and also culture is preserved. So you can acknowledge that the English language we speak today in 2020 is completely different from what was spoken in the times of Shakespeare and even before that. In Shakespearean time, you could say, Thou art happy, but today it is, You are happy. And so it is literature that preserved this language as well as the culture of that time that we can tell today. So we get educated, we get entertained, we get beauty, and we get the preservation of language and culture. There are quite a number of other functions, but these are kind of the core functions of literature, which has to be deal with the imaginative, artistic, and creative writings and speeches of a community, of a group of people, literature. So these are just some of its functions. And then we have the two main branches of literature, the spoken or the oral. We know speaking comes to us as the number one way of communicating for every human. Then we grow a little older, we begin to learn how to write, and we master writing later. So it's not just about writing, it includes spoken or oral. So literature has two main branches, oral literature and written literature. Then within these two branches, we have the three main traditional types, what is called a genre of literature, type or genre of literature. We have prose, we have drama, and we have poetry. These are the three main distinct types of literature. And there are some distinctive qualities about each of them. So something makes prose prose, something makes drama drama, and something makes poetry poetry. We'd like to get into what is prose first. A prose has to do with any written or spoken language in its ordinary form without metrical structure. So even as I'm speaking, it doesn't follow any particular stringent structure. It's something that flows naturally. In the same way, if anybody writes a natural, free flowing article, that could be called a prose. So a prose is natural, continuous writing or speaking. Examples of prose are short story and novels. Because for what you read as a novel, you could see that the writing goes smoothly. That's a predominant character or feature of a prose, that the writing is smooth, a continuous writing or a continuous speaking without any rigid structure. So that is prose. And therefore, of course, it has features that are unique to it that identifies it as prose. One of those features is characters. Characters could be humans, could be animals, could be inanimate, it could be abstract. There isn't a single prose without characters. They play a role in it. And then we have what is called a plot. A plot is the storyline from the beginning to the end of the discussion, or the sequence, the link of the story from the beginning to the end of that story is called a plot. Can you imagine a prose or a novel or a short story that you have read that has no plot? Then it would be a very bad one, wouldn't it? So plots, very important for prose. Then we have what we also call conflict, almost self-explanatory, the problem that has to be solved along the way. For every short story or novel you've read, there definitely is a particular problem, a particular knot that must be untied eventually. So, yes, a conflict can be interpersonal if it happens between persons or amongst persons or things, or it can also be intrapersonal. A conflict or problem can arise within one individual. So it doesn't have to be more than a, one person before we talk about conflict in the sense of conflict as used in prose or in literature. Then prose also have what we call setting, which have to do with the time and the place of the story. The time and the place of the story. So if a story is set in uh, Shakespeare's time, for example, there wouldn't be anything like a mobile phone, or WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. But if a story is set around this time, then we can have feature these type of things, because this time we have this type of things around us. So setting is very important in prose. If a prose is set even in the future, it will project things that are likely to be common around future, of course, based on imagination. Then we have the theme or themes, whatever the case is. Themes are very important because they happen to be the lesson behind the subject matter, what has been discussed, the storyline. What lesson that does this story seek to achieve, or that this story seek to teach? So that those lessons are called a theme. And of course, every writer or every speaker has their style, how they use language in a beautiful way that is unique to them. So these are some of the characteristic features of prose. Then we have some examples of prose, particularly in the African context. We know some of these examples. So the beautiful ones are not yet born by Ayikoyama. Actually, the beautiful in the way Ayikoyama captures it is the beautiful is spelled with a Y, not the correct spelling of I. So I should have captured it that way. The beautiful ones are not yet born is one example of a prose. Things Fall Apart, the very popular Chinua Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart, is a prose. And of course, Changes, Ama Tayedu's Changes, is also another example of prose. So we've seen literature, what it is, the imaginative, creative writings. We've seen the three functions of literature. We've come to see the three main types of literature: prose, drama, and poetry. So this is just a little bit about prose. And we would continue in the second section with poetry.